Story time. Okay, so I used to work at this nursing home, and creepy shit only used to happen in this one room. And like, now that I think about it, that room was creepy as fuck. But it didn't get that creepy until this lady moved in it. She was about 80 something years old, didn't do much talking. So I went in there to like clean up, right? I'm looking in the bathroom. Mostly stuff is clean because she don't really use the bathroom. I'm sweeping, and then I was sweeping behind the door, and behind the door is a closet, right? And there's just like one shoe in between the door, so it doesn't close all the way. And like, I thought it was just like there, so I moved it and I closed the door, right? And like, when I first came in, she was looking out the window. And like, another creepy thing is that her neck goes like this. So she's looking out the window and her neck is like this. And so when I moved the shoe, she was like, put the shoe back. And I'm like, how the f did she see that?
Put the shoe back is crazy. I don't know about y'all, but I'm putting that shoe back.
Okay, part 2, y'all. So while she's looking out the window with her neck like this, she says, put the shoe back. And I'm like, whatever, old people are weird. She wants the shoe in the door, you know. Then I noticed that the closet is dark as f. And I know how big all the residents' closet is, and her closet just seems so fucking deep. So I do the rest of the cleaning, and I just kind of like get out there, and I ask her if she wants her door closed, right? And she doesn't say anything, so I'm like, And so I close the door. And this is when shit gets weird. As soon as I close the door, like, I close it tight. I know I closed it tight enough. Once I'm walking away, the door like creeps open slow. And y'all, like, I'm not the one to be like, oh my god, ghost. But I was like, because I know I closed it correctly. So I go back to close the door, and let me tell y'all, she was in the crack of the door saying, get out before he sees you. And then she slams it in. Part 3, y'all. Okay, so this time I was on night shift duty, and this is when it really got really weird. I walked up to her room to like go and clean it and everything. And like, before I open the door, I can hear her talking, and she doesn't have a roommate. So I'm like, what the f is she talking about? So I'm listening to her talk. I'm talking about having a full-blown conversation. As soon as I open the door, nothing, no talking. She's laying down and she's looking at them crack in the closet. Like, have you ever walked in on somebody having a conversation and you feel like you interrupted it and it's awkward? Well, yes, that's how I felt. I'm looking around to see if anybody in there, and nobody's in there. So I do my regular cleaning and everything. She's just staring at the motherfucking crack. Tell me why I opened that closet door and she was like, no. And I don't care. I opened that bitch and a fucking Ouija board fall out. Right then and there, I quit. That shit.
There you go. Sometimes situations attract to you, or people attract to you to show you something, so you can learn you something. And she learned her something with that situation. She definitely learned her something. Yep.
Tell me, what's the creepiest experience you ever had in your life, and why you still think about that moment?
So about 10 years ago, I worked as a float pool nurse, and I came in to relieve a charge nurse that had been there for 16 hours. She worked from 7 a to 7 p, but then stayed extra due to short staffing till 11 p, which was, normal for her. She picked up a lot of extra shifts. Everything went as planned. And, my shift went fine until 4 a.m. I was at the nurse's station charting. I looked up, and there she was. She was walking towards the elevator, very distinct walked, very distinct hair, had the same bag, was just bopping along like she normally does. And I said, hey, so-and-so, what are you doing here? It's 4 a.m. You just left. She just kept walking like she didn't hear me. So I said, oh, okay, well, maybe she's getting breakfast. I'll catch you when she comes back up. And about 2 hours later at 6 a.m, her husband called and told us that she fell asleep behind the wheel on the way home and crashed into a tree and died.
Somebody said the scariest part is that she came back to work, of all places. And then somebody else said when a sudden death happens, spirits don't realize they passed away since it's so sudden. She definitely didn't know she had passed away. Y'all remember that situation that had happened in Cities too, when the woman, she worked at a nursing home, and the spirit that turned really, really evil, he was a man at first, and he had passed away. But then she had saw him go into the elevator, and she rode in the elevator with him, and he ain't say nothing. She was like, oh, what you doing up? I thought you were sick. And he ain't say nothing, and he just walked off and walked into some type of dark room. And she was just like, why is he walking around here You know, this month, this, I still got a little goosebump from that one. She was like, why is he still walking around here? I thought he's not supposed to be up out of bed. She was like, what are you talking about? She was like, I just rode in the elevator with him. She was like, he passed away. And that just like shook me. Like this type real life experiences like that has happened. That's where it just like I say, everything comes from something. When you see these scary movies and they show all of these different stories that happen, it came from something.
I was a hospice nurse for 17 years and had so many spiritual experiences. One incident, I was working in the hospice inpatient unit where we had 10 beds for the patients. I had one woman who was actively dying. As I passed by her room, I peeked in and saw her sitting up on the side of her bed, smiling. I walked on by, then stopped, recalling she's not been doing so well. Also, she was missing a leg, and I just saw her a few seconds prior. She had both legs. I backed up and looked in the room, and she was still laying in bed. I thought maybe I had seen her soul getting ready to leave the body. She looked so happy. After the end of my shift, I went home. When I walked in my house, there she was, standing in my hallway. She had both legs, looked at least half her age, and was smiling so brightly. I stood there, smiled at her, thanked her for giving me a visit, and then she faded away. I called work and told them to go in and check on her. The nurse came back to the phone and affirmed she had passed away. I felt so blessed she chose to touch in and share her joy passing on.
Okay. You know, that's good. That's how you really handle it. You don't handle it with fear. You don't handle it with just like scariness. You handle it with like, okay, you know, I wish you well on your journey to the next stages of your existence and experience wherever you about to go. Yeah, that was a good going away, because some people would have been scared out of their mind.
So when my mom told me this story, it gave me goosebumps. So my mom is a hospice nurse, and one night a few years ago she was on call, and she gets a call from one of the hospitals in town that says, hey, we got a patient, they just got the bad news from the doctor, and they want to be on hospice. My mom, do your job, okay, let them know I'll be there shortly, probably take me about 10 minutes. So at the hospital was this woman, we'll call her Jane. She had just gotten told by the doctor, the bad news that she had terminal cancer and she didn't have a whole lot longer to live. So while her family was there, they elected to go on hospice for the remaining time that she had left. So after they had made the decision as a family, her kids, everybody, they left. So Jane was kind of sitting there taking it all in while she was waiting for the hospice nurse. In this moment, a woman walks in her room, and Jane's kind of looking up like, who the hell are you? And this woman introduces herself and says, hi, my name's Betty. I'm your neighbor. I've been your neighbor for the last couple days here in the hospital. I'm just in the room down the hall. And I heard the bad news. So I just wanted to come in and say, is there anything I can do for you to let you know that it's going to be okay? And Jane was like, what do you mean you heard the bad? How did you hear the bad news? And she was kind of taken aback by this. And she's talking to me and she goes, no, I'm okay. I think I just need some time. The hospice nurse is coming. I'm going to just take some time to myself. So this woman comes to her and goes, okay, okay, sweetie, we're in the Midwest. Okay, sweetie, if you need anything, let me know. And so instead of turning around and leaving the room, Betty turns and walks into the bathroom of Jane's room and shuts the door. And Jane was just kind of shocked, like, what is happening here? And literally, probably 60 seconds after that happened, my mom got there. She came and she knocked on the door, hi, I'm the hospice nurse. Do you have a minute to talk? And Jane was kind of like, yeah, I guess. So my mom, she's been a nurse for a really long time. And so she sees like this hesitation on Jane's face and she can hear it in her voice. And she's like, is there something on your mind? Do you want to say something? And Jane was kind of like, so my neighbor, Betty, just came in and, was really sweet, really a nice lady, but she just went into the bathroom and she's still in there. My mom was like, oh, okay. How long has she been in there? And Jane was like a minute or so, but I can't, I don't hear anything. I don't hear, what's going on. So my mom is trying to be very polite. Obviously, this is a situation where Betty doesn't need to be there. And, my mom's been in healthcare for a long time. She thought maybe Betty might have a little dementia or something. So she walks over to the bathroom door and she knocks and there's no answer. And she knocks again and she says, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm with hospice. I'm going to open the door. So then she goes to open the door and there's nobody in there. So then, my mom says to Jane, gosh, there's nobody in here. And Jane's like, kind of wigged out. Obviously, she's like, I had a conversation with her. Like, I'm not sleeping. I'm not groggy. She was in there. And so, my mom was like, okay, well, let's, he just had a traumatic, thing happen. It's a lot going on. Let's kind of get going. We'll talk through this, and maybe I'll go check on Betty, and maybe she slipped out at some point when you didn't see her. So they finished the paperwork, because of course it's healthcare, there's paperwork for everything. So they finished the paperwork. My mom says, they finished chatting, and my mom says, okay, well, I'll go check on Betty, and we'll be at the end. And Jane's like, okay, thank you for coming. So my mom leaves and walks over to the room that Betty said she was from, and she looks in, and there's nobody in there. So then she walks down to the nurse's station to report off, I guess, what she had done, and kind of keep in communication with the nurses. And as she's reporting to the nurses, she tells them, hey, Jane said Betty kind of came in her room right before I got there, and I can't find her in her room now, so I just want to make sure that, if she has dementia or something, she's not lost somewhere, so if somebody could just make sure she's okay. And I'll never forget my mom's face when she told me this part. She said the nurse looks at her and goes, "What?" So my mom goes, Betty, I just want to make sure she's okay. She was in, and recants the story. And the nurse looks at her and goes, Betty died this morning, like 12 hours ago. Betty's not there. Betty was not in her room. And of course, my mom was shooketh by this. My mom is not a storyteller. She's not she's a spiritual person, but, she's not a big into the paranormal. So this really took her back.
Betty gone. Betty went into that bathroom and she went somewhere else. She went into another portal, another dimension. Betty just wanted to say hi. That's all she wanted to do. We just gotta let Betty do what she needs to do. If Betty wanna say hi and say everything's gonna be all right, let Betty do what she needs to do. But I just want to know what Betty wanted from the lady in the room. Like, what did she want? She's basically saying, like, is there anything I can do for you? Like, what could you do, Betty? What could you do for that woman who was in the same situation as you were in? I just know Betty's in another dimension. That's all.
Is this a photo of the Hat Man taken in a nursing home in Missouri? Jennifer says it is. But that's not the only entity that's in that photo. If it is a Hat Man that's behind her, who is the woman to the side? This woman right here. But she's not the only one. I found one more. Do you see it? Look in this area. Backstory on this photo. Jennifer took this photo while she was working at a nursing home, and it was the middle of the night, and a patient had had a stroke, so they were having to take the patient to the hospital. Well, she happened to notice that it was snowing, so she wanted to get a photo of the snow. She took this photo, she just looked at her phone really quickly, noticed that it didn't look the way she wanted to, so she closed it. But she had already sent it to her boyfriend. Well, the next night, her boyfriend calls her and is like, who's in that photo? So immediately she thinks he's looking at some other photo and thinks she's cheating or something like that. But he comes to her work and shows her what he's talking about. Who is this woman right here? That's exactly what Jennifer wanted to know, because no one was in the room with her when this photo was taken. When her boyfriend showed up and was like, who's this woman and who's the man in the hat standing behind you? She had no idea. She was in the room by herself, so she even went around and asked some of the nurses that had been there for a very long time, one of which had been there for like 24 years. Who is this woman? Do you know who she is? She did not recognize her at all. Is this the wife of maybe the man that was being taken away in the ambulance? Who knows? There's another one in this photo that I'm more curious about. Who is this? Now, this one is hard to see. I will give you that. But I have done a
Why she keep trying to make me look at the beings? I don't want to look at them. Get past that. Tell me the reason, the story, what happened, who is these people in the picture? I don't need to see it for like 30 seconds. Tell me the story. Cause she not telling the story. She just showing a scary picture. A freaky picture. Subconscious is not scary. Listen to me. It's not scary. It'd be hard for me when people just be smiling and talking about stories that's a little creepy. I don't know. Let me know what y'all think about this one, because she already, look, I can already see her teeth in this one. Let's see what's up.
Nurses have it hard enough taking care of living, breathing patients, but when they have to take care of those that aren't with us anymore, that's a whole other level of commitment. And that's exactly what happened to one of my followers. Let me read you her story. I'd been working at the nursing home for about 6 months at this point, so I thought I was pretty well used to everything and had seen just about anything and everything that I could possibly see at this point, but boy was I wrong. I'd been working seconds up until this point, but one of the women on third shift was on maternity leave and they asked me if I could fill in. I didn't have any kids and I was single, so I thought, why not? What else was I doing? They warned me that things might be a little different on third shift. I thought that might mean maybe patients acted differently throughout the night. I didn't know that they meant paranormal stuff. They warned me that I may see patients that were no longer there. I thought they were exaggerating, just trying to scare the new girl. Technically, I'd been there 6 months, but I was still the newbie compared to everyone else, so I laughed it off. I didn't think much of it. My third night is when everything went crazy. I had a patient buzz my room. I go in to check on her. She had had an accident. I told her no big deal. We'll get her cleaned up. It was fine. After I got her cleaned up, I set her in her chair and then I went to the linen closet to get new bedding for her. When I came back, she was gone. Now, I just cleaned this woman up. I knew that I'd just cleaned her up. I knew that I'd left her in her chair. But then I also didn't know if maybe she had some kind of form of dementia or something, so I looked everywhere for her. I searched the closets. I searched the hallways. I couldn't find her anywhere. I started to panic and decided that it was time to go find another nurse to see if they could help me look for her. So I went into the nurse's station and asked if they had seen Mrs. Stevens. Immediately, one of the other nurses turned around and said, "Who did you say?" I told her, Mrs. Stevens, that I was starting to panic because I had just cleaned her up. I told her everything that had happened and I went looking for her and I couldn't find her anywhere. I saw the color drain from her face and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm in so much trouble. She said, "Who told you to tell me this? Did Barry tell you this? Did Barry put you up to this?" I'm confused because I hadn't talked to Barry and I had no idea what she was talking about. And then I was starting to kind of get a little pissed off because I had lost a patient and she's accusing me of some kind of something. I don't even know at this point. So I asked her, "What is your problem? Why are you doing this? I need help finding Miss Stevens. Are you going to help me or not?" She looks me dead in my face and says, "Miss Stevens died 3 months ago. I was the one that helped her after she had an accident. I set her in the chair just like you told me you did. I came back and she had passed away." I look at her and I say, "Are you telling me that patient that I just cleaned up is a deceased patient?" She said, "Yes, that's exactly what I'm telling you. No one has been in that bed since. If you haven't noticed, we don't have many patients here right now. That patient that you helped passed away 3 months ago." Needless to say, that was the last night that I worked thirds at that nursing home.
Get somebody else to do it at that point, because no. You did all that work cleaning up that woman's releases just for it to be a ghost. Somebody got to extend up the price on the paycheck or something, because that's wrong. Why is the ghost doing her like that? Why is Miss Stevens, why is she doing her like that? It's not cool. It's not cool.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go first.
So I guess TikTok doesn't want to hear my scary story, but I'm going to tell you guys anyway. I can't stitch the other video. I'm going to try to figure out how to stitch it, but anyway. One last time, I've tried to record this thing 5 times and I'm at work. So my scary story is I worked at a nursing home that was a Catholic nursing home. And I always worked second floor, third shift. With my nurse, her name was Vanessa. For the story, that's her name. This particular night, I come in, they're like, "You and Vanessa are working on the 3rd floor." So I'm like, cool, no problem, whatever. So we go upstairs, we're working, da-da-da-da. I say, "Hey, Vanessa, I'm finna take a break. I'm going downstairs." Now, I take the back stairs because it's quicker than the elevator. It takes you right downstairs to the front lobby. Vending machines is right there. Boom. Plus, I need to exercise. This particular night, I take the back stairs from the 3rd floor, thinking nothing of it. I get somewhere that's not the 1st floor lobby where the vending machines are. It is a room, it looks like. So I'm standing on the stairs. Everything in front of me is black. This black. I look to the left, black. I look to the right, black. Only thing different was there was a light, a door, and the window had a light like from the outside, and above it had an exit sign, red exit sign. So I'm like, so boom, if I jump down off these stairs and dart to that door, yeah, girl, I'll be somewhere, but I won't be here. Because mind you, the only light behind me was the light from the stairwell. The moment I decided I was going to step down, it was like the room got heavy. Some overwhelming, not nice, not happy, unpleasant feeling came over me. And again, I can't see nothing in front of me. I can't see nothing. All my brain said was, bitch, run. I flew up them stairs so goddamn fast. I get back to the 3rd floor. I'm hollering, Vanessa, Vanessa, Vanessa. She's like, what, Cam, what? So she's there with another nurse. We're going to call him Kevin. And Kevin is there, and I'm telling them, and I'm all out of breath. I'm like, what's behind me? Something was chasing me up the stairs, da-da-da-da-da. They're like, well, calm down, Cam, calm down. So Kevin was like, oh, you were down in the convent. Now, I had worked at this place for like 8, 9, 10 months. Ain't never known the convent to be in the building. I went to work and I left. I didn't care about everything else. I figured that the nun convent was somewhere else, and then when they got old and decrepit, they came to the nursing home. But whatever, you know. Yeah, and Kevin, he got to telling us some really strange things about that convent and then that nursing home and them nuns and things around there. And I just was like, but he was like, I'm not surprised that there's a presence. And yeah, and maybe when I came down there, I walked up on something that I wasn't supposed to walk up on, but I couldn't see shit. But nonetheless, yeah, that was my that's my scary story.
Yeah, I'm not playing with them nuns. I'm not doing it, because, you know, that nun from The Conjuring 2 really did it for me. Like, the face, the nun, it's not it. No, I would have went back up the stairs. I wouldn't have tried to run through that area, because no. Like, if you were already feeling something and you can't see nothing anywhere where it's pitch darkness or it's too cold somewhere, there is a dark energetic presence there. So you need to just go the opposite way. Go back. Don't go that way. Go back to where you came from and try to redo it. Go to the elevator. Where is you going? You're going the wrong way. I wish she would have talked about what happened at the nunnery so I can get a little background on the energy that was down there.
So a few years ago, I worked in this nursing home. I worked on a dementia floor, so things were pretty chaotic to begin with. If you've ever worked with dementia patients, you know what I'm talking about. This one particular day, I was working overnight, and when I arrived, I was going to each of my patients' rooms to read their report from the day. This one patient I had, she was completely bedridden. You had to lift her. She's pretty small though, so I could always do it myself. So when I got to her room, she's laying on the floor beside her bed. And my first thought is like, oh my God, she fell out of bed. So I went over to her and I was like, Miss Blank, like, are you okay? Like, what happened? Did you fall? And she said, oh no, honey, the man put me here. So I thought that she meant the male nurse that was there that day. So I went out to the nurse's station and I was like, why did you put her on the floor? Kind of weird. It's a little strange. And he was like, what are you talking about? And I told him, I was like, she said that a man put her on the floor. You are the only man here. And he's like, I did not put anybody on the floor. So I went back into her room, and again, she was a very tiny lady. I was able to get her up and into her bed by myself, and I finished doing what I needed to do and left the room. A few hours went by, like around midnight, I was doing my rounds again just to check on everybody, and I heard her talking in her room. It's not like uncommon for dementia patients to be like talking to themselves, you know, but I stopped by her door to listen to what she was saying, and I heard her say, no, I can't get out of bed again, they'll get mad. Immediately, just chills everywhere. So then I went around the corner to look into her room, and she is like hovering above her bed, like this much. And as soon as it's only for like 2 seconds, and as soon as I look at her, she drops down to the bed. And needless to say, that was my last shift at that nursing home. I literally never returned.
Hovering? Did you say hovering? Okay. Yeah, that's a little crazy because she was talking to somebody. She didn't seem scared though. Anybody remembers this story? This woman basically was talking about her experience in a nursing home and this man being haunted by some black boys that he was involved with. You know how that went. So yeah, people got in the comments was basically talking about their experiences as well. So I want to read it to y'all. Okay, so the first one says, I had a resident, she was white, who would beg me to stay the night every time I worked because she didn't want them, she meant the Klan, to get me. I would sit with her until she fell asleep. She would also tell me how she was going to take me out to the country club, and she dared anyone to tell me I can't come. Now, somebody has said in the comment and said her demons were tormenting her and she used you to protect her. Don't be fooled. And then Jada said, no, she actually protested and marched during the civil rights movement. She also fought for women's rights. She used to tell me how she burned her to protest in Miss America's contest. She also had pictures. She was iconic and inspiring woman. Please do not talk about her like that. Basically, this old white woman was protecting her nurse from the Klan. She thought, she just wanted to protect her. So that's a beautiful story. I love that. That is a beautiful twist. Kim said at one nursing home she worked at, there was a man who would scream all night claiming baby devils were in his closet and underneath his bed. Later, they found out that he was an inmate who was shipped to them because of his health declining. Later, we learned that he was in jail for assaulting numerous of little boys. Oh my God. Those are the two that I could find right now, but y'all let me know down below if y'all have any stories. I will read them and we can just go over the experience. I just hope y'all have a good rest of y'all day. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see y'all on another video.